My name's Ellie, and today I'm going to be doing an interview with one of our UQ alumni, Dr. Fiona Soper. Hi, Fiona. Thanks for joining us. Could you please tell us what was your degree, major, or specialisation at UQ?
Yeah, I graduated from UQ in 2008 with a Bachelor of Science, and I did an honours year. I majored in Botany.
So, what are you doing now?
I just started in January actually as an assistant professor in the Department of Biology and the School of Environment at McGill University, which is a research university in Montreal in Canada.
So, how did your degree get to where you are today? So, that transition from botany to, ecology and that sort of field.
So my science degree obviously kind of came along with a lot of coursework that is kind of a prerequisite to a career in academic science. But I think more than that, I was a part of the advanced study program when I was at UQ, and that fast-tracked students into research experiences like right from the beginning of our degrees. And I think that some of the research experiences that I had working in labs and then later as an honors student really kind of like set the tone for my interests, but also gave me some research experience that really helped with getting my first job. When I graduated, I worked as a technician for CSIRO, and then continued actually to work with my honors lab at UQ during that time. And that independent research experience was what enabled me to get into a PhD program in the US, and that's where I kind of really clarified my interests. And that kind of set the stage for staying in academia and becoming a professor in Canada.
So, what are your core responsibilities in your job today?
So most professors divide their time between research, teaching and advising, and service. So the research portion is essentially I run a research lab. So I have graduate, PhD, and master's students and undergrads, and we design studies. I collect data, analyze data, share it with colleagues, publish it. And then the teaching and advising portion, some of it is teaching undergraduate classes, but a big part of it is mentoring graduate students like through their own research projects and like helping to develop their skills as research scientists. And then that final pillar, service, is a combination of service to the community, so like reviewing the papers of other scientists and helping organize conferences, sitting on committees at the university, that kind of thing.
What do you enjoy about your current job and field?
I think the thing that I enjoy the most about sort of academia more broadly is just that it's very self-directed. So you have a lot of freedom to pursue the science ideas that you think are interesting or important. Like there's no higher directive telling you what to research. You really get to decide the kind of direction of your own lab group and your students and what kind of projects you take on. And then working in ecology specifically, it's really easy to see like the relevance of even basic science in sort of our day-to-day lives. Like a lot of what I do addresses issues related to climate change and global change and the way the ecosystems will work in the future. And with a good dose of also just getting to work outside. So I work in tropical rainforests and it's an amazing place to be.
Do you get to work with like other experts from different fields? So would you work with something like an oceanographer as part of ecology, or is it mostly just a team of ecologists?
Within ecology, I work with a spectrum of people who range from kind of like soil scientists through to people who do remote sensing, for example. Like a lot of ecologists are not sort of on the ground doing things with their hands. A lot of people do things like mathematical remodeling or remote sensing. And increasingly, like a big part of my research is being involved with people who make global climate models, because they need the kind of data that I collect to kind of create their models, to train their models, to test their models. And so, those are people often at government agencies, sometimes at other universities. So it's a pretty broad spectrum of people. And I work with scientists, some people who are still in Australia, the US, Canada, Europe, Central America. It's a very international mix.
So what are your plans for the future?
Well, I just started my lab 6 months ago, so it's brand new. And I'm really hoping that maybe in like 5 years' time that I have a a big flourishing lab group with lots of, students, and I'm training my students to get the kind of careers that they really want to have, and that we're putting out sort of high impact environmental research. It would be the best case.
So what were some of the highlights / most memorable experiences when you were at UQ?
I think some of my favorite memories from my time at UQ were definitely taking field classes. So I took a couple of classes when we went to Fraser Island and Stradbroke Island for sort of a few days at a time, and did like research projects, like small projects on our own there. And that really, it's definitely the most memorable experience I think that I had, in terms of finding what I really enjoyed and like shaping my interest going forward. And I also really enjoyed working as like a sort of a new undergrad, working with more established students in the labs, like working with PhD students and sort of seeing their life and seeing their research and watching their trajectory, and then getting to sort of like see myself doing that. And I still keep in touch with them. I have lots of friends who I worked with in labs when I was an undergrad.
Do you think one of the most valuable things is engaging with older students that have done similar pathways to the one you might like to do?
Yeah, I think one of the most helpful things to sort of decide on your path is just to talk to a lot of people who've done other things and to try lots of things out. I did research in a whole variety of different labs, and some of them I like immediately realized I thought this would be interesting, but like this is not quite for me. And other times, things that I didn't expect to enjoy, I found really engaging. So I think that variety of experience, because every lab has a different culture, they're asking different questions. The students have come from different places and different backgrounds, and there's really no substitute, I think, just to getting a lot of experience and talking to a lot of people, because it's really hard to know just from sitting in a lecture hall what it's going to be like to do any type of science. Like you get that experience through those engagements, not so much from what you do in classwork.
Yeah, so what does a typical day in your current job look like for you?
Academia is really, the day-to-day is very variable. So in a given day, I might be meeting with some of my students to talk about like their progression on their projects and any sort of roadblocks they're having. I might teach an undergraduate class. I might be checking on things in the lab myself, or if we're going to the field, like often I'll be, doing field work for 2 weeks at a time in Costa Rica or wherever we happen to be working. And then there's, some time spent sort of brainstorming ideas and talking to colleagues about trying to develop new ideas and collaborations. Writing grants is a big day to day. And then, some of the boring paperwork that you get in any job, filing travel reimbursements and things like that. But there's a lot of variety in any given day. It's not like 9 to 5 at your desk.
What made you want to study biology and then transition to ecology? Like, was there a specific moment when you were studying that you said, this is really something that I would love to do, or botany isn't really right for me?
I came into my degree at UQ sort of like generally interested in science. I wasn't even 100% sure that I wanted to do biology necessarily. But kind of early on, I think it might have been my second year, I had a really great lecturer, Suzanne Schmidt. She's still at UQ. And she just was really excited about like plant environment interactions. And she got me sort of interested in that. And then I went and worked in her lab. That's where I ended up doing my honors thesis. And, it was just like happenstance that this particular topic happened to engage me at this particular time. And that really sort of set the stage for what I ended up doing. And what I do now is a lot of plant biology. Ecosystems, plants are a pretty important part of them. And so I still study the sort of interactions between plants and their environment. But I just sort of shifted the context that I did that in. So, sometimes instead of doing it in a very like small, focused, plant-centric way, now I ask similar sorts of questions, but just like in a rainforest. So I wouldn't say I shifted fields entirely so much as just like slightly redirected the same expertise.
That's good to hear that study didn't go to waste.
No, definitely. I still use the stuff that I learned at UQ every day.